Welcome to the Book Nook podcast.
Great to be diving into another one today.
Absolutely. Today we're exploring a really fun children's book, one that absolutely leans into the wonderfully silly Dragons Love Underpants.
Ah, yes, a modern classic of sorts already. And we've got some great stuff to look at for this one. We've got, the usual book descriptions, but also reader reviews, including some from kids, which are always enlightening.
Oh, definitely.
Plus, insights from the author, Claire Freedman, from a blog tour, and even, believe it or not, a YouTube rap transcript based on the book.
A rap. Okay, that I need to hear about later. Our mission then is to figure out what makes this kind of glorious absurdity tick. Why does it work so well? And maybe get a peek behind the creative curtain.
Sounds like a plan. It's a fun one.
Okay, let's jump in. For anyone who might not know this one, what's the basic story of Dragons Love Underpants?
Right, so the book is by Claire Freedman, who wrote it, and Ben Cort did the illustrations. It's actually a newer one, published September 26, 2024, but it follows their huge hit, Aliens Love Underpants. That's part of that whole underpant-loving universe, I guess.
Seems like it.
The core idea is, well, it's right there in the title. Way back when, these huge, scaly dragons roamed the land, and they just loved to wear big underpants. Brightly colored ones, specifically.
Dragons wearing underpants. Bold ones. Okay, I'm already smiling. But dragons and fire. That seems like a bad mix for clothing, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's the central problem. They're fiery creatures, right? So inevitably, they accidentally scored them all, basically kept setting their lovely new pants on fire.
Oh, no.
Yeah, leading to, as the sources put it, singed undies and flaming holes. One source even adds a very apt OUCH.
Ouch, indeed. A wardrobe malfunction of epic proportions. So what does a dragon do when their favorite undies are all burnt?
Well, you need replacements fast.
Yeah.
So this urgent need kicks off what the book calls a knicker-nicking adventure.
A knicker-nicking adventure. Love it. Where do they go nicking knickers?
Where else but the kingdom of Pantasia? Apparently, it's ruled by King Topbot, who is described as a pants aficionado.
Pantasia. Ruled by a pants expert, of course. I'm guessing their arrival wasn't exactly low-key.
Not at all. They flew in at top speed, caused total chaos. The sources say they literally scared the pants off everyone and started grabbing underwear left and right.
What?
They still are underwear, as one bit puts it.
They still are underwear.
And the poor villagers, they all fled in despair. Understandable, really.
So, total panic in Pantasia. Did the king, the aficionado, try to stop this undergarment heist?
He did. He sent out his most loyal knight, but faced with actual fire-breathing dragons wanting pants.
Yeah.
The knight apparently made a rapid dash for it.
Smart knight, maybe?
Probably wise, yeah.
Yeah.
One source says a rapid dash for it from the dragon-sized attack. So he wasn't sticking around.
Okay, so the knight bails. What happens to King Topbot? Does he escape?
No. This is the big twist. A dragon just swoops down and snatches the king himself.
Yep.
Yes. And the description is priceless.
Yeah.
He was gripped firmly by the seat of his pants and just carried off.
By the seat of his pants. The indignity. That's brilliant. So kidnapping. I bet a ransom demand followed.
You bet. A note shows up. The demand. Piles of pants. Loads of them.
Piles of pants. Not gold, not jewels. Pants.
Exactly. And the threat, if they don't deliver, the dragons will scorch him on the rear.
Yikes. Okay, so things are getting serious, even amidst the silliness. High stakes for the royal posterior. So who steps up? Who's the hero here?
This is where young Princess Tilly comes in.
The princess. Does she lead an army? Try to fight?
Nope. Something much cleverer. She thinks about the real problem. It's not just needing pants. It's needing pants that don't catch fire, right?
Makes sense.
So she cooked up a clever plan, heads down to the royal forge.
The forge, not the sewing room.
The forge. And she makes some very special undergarments of the fireproof kind.
Fireproof underpants. That is absolutely genius. And you mentioned kids had thoughts on this.
They did. It really shows how kids engage with these, practical details, even in fantasy. We saw a review from Faith, she's 4.5, and she was wondering how the dragons could even fly with potentially heavy, fireproof metal pants.
That's a great point.
She figured they'd need to flap their wings really, really hard. It's fantastic logical thinking.
It really is. And someone else had a question, too.
Yeah, another reviewer, Misi, brought up the tailoring aspect. How did she know the dragon's measurements? Oh my. It's these little details that spark the imagination, isn't it?
Totally. It makes the world feel, weirdly real in its absurdity.
Yeah.
So Princess Tilly delivers the fireproof pants. Then what?
Well, the dragons are thrilled, presumably. They got what they needed, non-flammable knickers. And showing some surprising honor among thieves, they stuck to their side of the deal.
They let the king go.
They did. King Topot is freed, presumably unscorched. And as the book says, in true fairy tale fashion, everyone lived happily ever after. Problem solved through smart engineering and robust undergarments.
What a resolution. Okay, you've got the story. But why does this particular blend of silly dragons, underpants, why does it hit so well? What did the reviewers and sources say stood out?
Well, the humor is obviously massive. The core concept itself is just funny. Matthew Walsh's review, quote, sums up that feeling. Help, the dragons stole my underpants. It's relatable panic, just dragonified.
Right, and the visual aspect must be huge too.
Oh, definitely. Ben Cort's illustrations get a lot of praise. Jessica noted, the designs and those who are wearing the underpants are great. And Messi explicitly said, love the art in this one. Colorful and fun, adding it made it even more humorous.
So the art really elevates the comedy.
Crucial. Claire Freedman herself mentioned how exciting it is seeing illustrators like Cort bring her words to life. It's that perfect marriage of text and image.
And speaking of Claire Freedman, the author, we learned a bit about her too, right? She's written a lot.
She has, yeah. Over 15 years, more than 50 books. Interestingly, she didn't start out aiming for children's books. She took a creative writing class, got a story published in a kids magazine called Twinkle, and she said it just snowballed from there.
So she sort of found her calling along the way.
Seems like it. She calls writing the best job ever now. Loves creating these worlds. Apparently gets ideas just walking by the sea. Simple things sparking these wild stories.
That's really cool. You know, thinking about her craft, this book rhymes, and writing a whole story in rhyme, making it scan and make sense, that sounds really hard.
It is a specific skill, for sure. And actually, one of the sources we found had Claire Freedman giving her top 5 tips for writing in rhyme.
Oh, perfect. Let's hear them. What's tip number 1?
First up, get used to rhyme. Simple advice, really. She suggests going back to basics like nursery rhymes, Humpty Dumpty, Mary Had a Little Lamb, just to internalize those simple meters and rhythms.
Start simple, build the foundation. Okay, what's number 2?
Number 2 is let your mind drift. She says rhymes often pop into her head when she's doing other things, like showering or walking. The trick is to, pay attention, count syllables, maybe fiddle with word order, say lines over and over till they sound right.
So be open to those random sparks, but then work them. Gotcha. Number 3.
Use a rhyming dictionary. She's very upfront about it. Lots of writers do. She says just flicking through can give you ideas. And it's useful to keep track of rhymes you've jotted down. Plus, a thesaurus helps find different words if you need a synonym that fits better.
Okay, tools are good. No shame in using a rhyming dictionary. That's good to know. What's tip 4?
Map out your story. This is key for picture books, which usually have a set number of pages, like 12 spreads. You need to balance the rhyme, the rhythm, and the actual plot progression. So planning which part of the story goes on, which page helps. But she also says you need maneuverability, flexibility.
Plan the structure, but don't be totally rigid. Makes sense. And the last tip.
Number 5, and she says this is essential, read out loud, always. Read it to yourself, read it to family, friends. You'll immediately hear the clunky rhymes or awkward phrasing that you might miss just reading silently. Picture books are meant to be heard, so they have to sound good.
That feels so crucial, doesn't it? It's almost like writing song lyrics in a way. It needs that musicality.
Exactly. It shows it's not just about being funny. There's real technique involved.
You know, it's fascinating how the silliness catches on. You mentioned a rap earlier.
Yeah. Someone actually made a YouTube rap telling this story.
Yeah.
Looking at the transcript, it really hits the big moments. The dragons loving pants, the fiery problem, scaring everyone in Pantasia, the knight running, grabbing the king by his pants.
All the action beats.
Exactly. And Princess Tilly's fireproof solution. It tells you what parts really stick, the high energy, super visual core conflict points. The fact that it inspired a whole other creative thing like a rap says a lot about its impact.
That's a really good point. It shows the story has this stickiness.
Hey, speaking of things we hope stick with you, if you're enjoying this deep dive, maybe take a moment to subscribe to the Book Nook podcast or leave us a review. It really helps other book lovers find the show.
Please do. Okay, so pulling this all together. What's the big takeaway from digging into dragons, underpants, and fireproof solutions?
I think it shows, first off, how a really unique, kind of bonkers premise can work incredibly well if it's paired with a clear, relatable problem needing clothes. and a really satisfying, clever solution.
Right. The absurdity works because it's anchored in a story structure we understand.
Exactly. And it highlights how vital those specific sunny details are, like fireproof pants, not just any pants, and how much the illustrations contribute to landing the humor, especially for kids.
And we also saw the craft behind it. Writing funny rhymes isn't just luck. It's about rhythm, planning, using tools, and definitely reading it aloud.
Absolutely. It's that blend of wild imagination and careful execution. The fact that it sparks kids' questions and inspires things like fan-made raps just proves how well it connects.
So, we've explored the saga of Pantasia's pants predicament, heard what readers think, got a peek at the author's process, and even saw how the story translates to rap.
It's been quite the journey into the world of dragon fashion dilemmas.
It has. So, here's something maybe to think about after listening. We talked about how this specific, detailed absurdity works so well. Why do you think stories that really embrace the truly bizarre, the really specific silliness, like dragons needing fireproof underpants, why do those resonate so strongly and lastingly with kids? What's the magic ingredient in that kind of detailed, committed absurdity?
That's a great question, something to definitely chew on.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. Thanks so much for joining us on the Book Nook podcast as we unpacked Dragon's Love Underpants.
Yeah, thanks for listening and exploring the sources with us.
Don't forget to subscribe and review if you haven't already. And if this chat made you want to grab a copy of the book, check out the link in our description. Thanks again for tuning in to the Book Nook podcast.